Would you agree to be locked in a bubble with 7 other people for 2 years?
Let's talk about that. Good Mythical Morning.
You don't have to be a fan of watching Captain Planet take on eco-villains like Sly Sludge or Loot and Plunder. Yes, that was one of the guys' names.
Of course it was.
Plunder.
Yeah.
To know that we humans don't do a very good job of taking care of our home, the Earth. So much so that people like Stephen Hawking, you probably heard of him, has said that in order to survive, we're going to need to colonize other planets at some point because, time is running short on this one. We gotta get to other planets. And why don't we practice by going and setting up something on Mars? Not like Mars is the future, but if you're gonna get to the next planet, you gotta get to the first planet that you can get to, that's Mars. NASA said, you know what, we're gonna have a manned mission to Mars by 2035, and SpaceX, that's Elon Musk's company, he says we're gonna go there by the 2020s. I'm not talking about the television show, guys. I'm talking about the years, the 2020s. We're gonna go there because of the guy who makes the Tesla cars.
You can make his rocket come down.
We're not going in a Tesla car, it's in a rocket. There's a problem though. It's pretty awesome. There is a problem though. Mars is very, 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 very cold, negative 225 degrees Fahrenheit. You don't want to be caught out in the open in that situation without a toboggan or without being in some sort of enclosed space.
Or as my family members call it, a toboggan.
A toboggan.
Not to go on your toes though.
You need a lot more than a toboggan to live on Mars. And if you're a human, you need to be enclosed in some sort of space. So people have been thinking about this, creating some sort of biosphere, if you will, an enclosed ecosystem to help us learn how to get ready to go to other planets. And you may remember, I do remember this, back in 1991, when we were in middle school, 8 people in Arizona went into something called Biosphere 2. Here's a little refresher.
Really?
In 1991, 8 researchers were sealed inside a futuristic glass complex near Oracle, Arizona, to spend 2 years living in a self-sustaining habitat.
We hope by building Biosphere 2 that we build the first prototype for a total life system that you'd be able to take to another planet.
I take my last breaths of this atmosphere, knowing that I will take breaths from a different atmosphere from all of you for 2 years.
It's very dramatic.
I take my last breath and my last use of hair product. Did she use that hair product on the inside too?
I don't know, I like that hair.
Bouffant hair.
I got no problems at all with that.
I do not remember that.
I can make that a biosphere.
I do not remember Biosphere 1 either.
Yeah, well the reason you don't remember Biosphere 1, that's what I was thinking, is because Biosphere 1 is the Earth. There was no Biosphere 1 that was an enclosed thing. They're like, Biosphere 1 is the Earth.
I'm currently experiencing it.
Yeah, we are in Biosphere 1 right now, Link, it's awesome.
So Biosphere 2 is kind of like a dive suit for 8 people in crops.
Exactly, and a few animals. Here's what it had. It was basically a huge greenhouse, over 3 acres.
Or a greenhouse.
Big greenhouse. Bigger than a suit, yeah. Greenhouse, 3 acres, over 9 stories tall. It had a rainforest, a desert, an ocean, a swamp, a savanna, and a small farm that had 5 goats, 2 pigs, and 23 chickens.
Are you sure this isn't just a zoo?
No, this is Biosphere 2. It's a beautiful facility.
It's a zoo no one can go to.
Well, these 8 people went, but the question is, why are we not all playing kickball on Mars now?
Are they still, or are they still in there?
No, they're not, because Biosphere 2 was a huge failure.
Really?
Here's what happened. Well, first of all, just to give you an idea of how big of a failure it was, Time Magazine says this is one of the 100 worst ideas of the 20th century. Biosphere 2.
Well, it doesn't sound like it.
It inspired another thing that's on my list of the 100 worst ideas of the 20th century, the 1996 Pauly Shore film, Biodome.
Just because we're stuck in a bubble doesn't mean we can't cause any trouble.
On 3, 3.
Looks like a lot of fun.
So let me get this straight. Biosphere 2.
Just because we're stuck in a bubble doesn't mean we can't cause any trouble.
Bungee jump! Trouble with the bungee cord. So they took Biosphere 2 and it was a miserable failure, so they just used it as a movie set?
Yeah, no, they didn't. They built their own movie set. They didn't go into Biosphere 2 because and I'll tell you why.
The producers missed an opportunity with that one.
Biosphere
one
2
was already built.
Cost $150 million to build. You're like, who financed this? The government? No, a guy named Ed Bass. Not Ed Bassmaster. This was not him pre-YouTube career.
Ed Bass?
This is an eccentric heir to a Texas oil fortune named Ed Bass. And he just had a bunch of money and he was into environmental ideas and he thought this would be a good one. And he also had a guy who was a really good friend and mentor of his named John Allen, who was the designer. It was John Allen's idea financed by Ed
Bass's
Bass.
money.
So, but John being involved was probably the problem. This guy was a very weird dude, kind of a jack of all trades. He had a background in engineering and metallurgy, working with metals. But he was also the founder of a theater company, a theater commune called Synergia Ranch. So,
Okay.
so what did he do?
Okay.
So what did he do when he came up with this idea for Biosphere 2?
He just wanted to have a theater. He wanted to make his own theater.
Where did he find the 8 participants?
Actors.
He found them at the theater commune.
Oh, dude.
Most of them. Most of the people who went into Biosphere 2 were not scientists or doctors. They were theater commune people from Synergia Ranch. And some of them hadn't even gone to college.
Hey, that's okay.
But it was supposed to be like a scientific endeavor. And I remember on the news, they were talking about this. I was a kid. I didn't really know what
that
the
explains
deal was.
why that woman was so dramatic when
She's
she was
like,
giving her speech.
I take these last breaths.
It was a monologue.
Yeah,
from,
it was
from the
very
commune.
Shakespearean.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that woman that you saw, Jane Pointer, she was the root of some of the trouble. 12 days into them being sealed up into this thing, she cut off the tip of her finger in a rice thresher. I don't know what a rice thresher is. They probably use it in one of their plays that they put on the side.
You
of
got to
the
have a
Biosphere.
theater degree to know how to use a rice thresher.
Right. But anyway, she had to go outside of the Biosphere to get medical attention.
Well, they
so
had to-
12 days in, boom, they break the seal. They breaking the seal.
Why didn't she just poke her finger out?
Well, she went out. She got medical attention. So a lot of people are like, okay, this thing's ruined. She's out. And of course, the news covered this because the news was like still hanging around. And then she went back in with 2 duffel bags. And everybody was like, oh, she's taking in supplies.
Extra fingers.
The whole idea was that this was supposed to be self-sustaining. You weren't supposed to get any help because on Mars, you ain't gonna get help. Like, they don't even have oxygen in this thing. It's supposed to generate all its own atmosphere.
Right.
So opening the seal ruins everything. But she says, oh, there's just drawings inside of the duffel bags is what she said. 2 duffel bags worth of drawings and maybe scripts for future plays were in these duffel bags.
Wow.
But they didn't take off their Deep Space Nine jumpsuits and call it quits. They continued on and things got worse. Too much cloud cover. It was like an El Nino year, and apparently Arizona had more clouds than expected, so the crops really didn't grow.
Everything got real brown in there.
Then the livestock ate up most of the food because, pigs and goats and stuff need food. So they kill the pigs, half of the chickens, and begin eating the grain for the animals for themselves. This was a little bit of a diet. One guy who wasn't really that overweight lost 54 pounds.
Ouch. This reminds me of my science project in junior high that I got honorable mention. I didn't call it Biosphere. I called it What is the Balance of Nature? And it was these different jars that had water and algae and slugs. And
this is pretty much exactly
and it was
that.
sealed. And they all turned really brown, and when you open it up, it smelled like death in there.
Did you put 8 people from a theater commune in there?
No.
That was where you went wrong. Now, if all that stuff wasn't bad enough, the oxygen levels, this place was supposed to have a normal oxygen level, and it did at one point. It had about 21%, but it began to drop, and it went down to 14%. And you don't have to know anything about, like the death zone around the top of Everest to know that when you get into a low oxygen environment, weird stuff starts happening. Sleep apnea. They would wake up in the middle of the night gasping for breath because they couldn't get enough oxygen when they were sleeping. It made them crazy. It made them into kleptomaniacs and hoarders, and they started stealing from one another inside of the Biosphere. Then Jane Pointer,
Good old
she
Jane.
lost the tip of her finger. I'm realizing that right now.
That's nice.
She had a time travel experience. She hallucinated while she was in the sweet potato field. Yes, there was one of those. And she went into a time machine. She came out on the other side. She had a conversation with her older brother, an argument with him. Key note, her older brother was not actually in the Biosphere, so it was a hallucination.
He was in the duffel bag.
So here's what her brother was in the duffel bag. That's what it was. Here's what ended up happening. Things get so desperate, they start pumping oxygen into the thing. They operate a CO2 scrubber, which is what you use on a submarine to get oxygen in and get CO2 out, which is a complete violation of the whole thing. So basically the whole thing was just kaput at that point, but they stayed in there. They quit talking to one another. There's several of them who wouldn't talk to one another, and then after 2 years, they finally come out and put on a smiley face for the news and just declare it a victory. But everybody knew by that time it was just a failure.
But if they would have had cameras everywhere and they would have televised it as a reality show, it would have been seen as a success.
It would have. Yes.
Based on ratings.
Right.
Which is a defunct way to measure.
It was ahead of its time. It should have been a reality show.
You can't measure the success of anything using ratings anymore. It's a broken system.
And to end
Let's talk at length about that.
To end on a good note, Link, you can go there today. Biosphere 2, it's still a thing. It's owned by the University of Arizona, and now it's just the world's largest Earth Science Research Center. They're actually getting some pretty cool stuff there done, and you can take a tour. It's in Oracle, Arizona.
Is Jane still in there?
Jane is not there, and I think
Fingerless Jane.
2 of the Biospherians fell in love. I think Jane was one of them. I'm not sure exactly who that was, but
if it can be done, Jane did it. Trust me.
They put a ring right on that finger. It was very easy to get on there because
didn't have as far to go.
Didn't have a tip. So anyway,
because as you know, the tip is the reason why it's hard to get rings on fingers.
Meet us at Biosphere 2. We'll be there. No, we won't. Maybe someday.
Thanks for liking and commenting on this video.
You know what time it is.
I'm Nick Mullis, host of Mr. B&L, and we are at Mr. B&L, and these are the wonderful people of Bedford, Indiana. And it is time to spin the wheel.
You should be following us on Twitter at Rhett and Link because we've got hip tips. Things like you should always tuck your shirt in to your underpants.
See how funny that was? Click through to Mythical Morning where we discuss our personal intersections with biospheres, i.e. would we live in a biosphere?
Intersections?
Like,
Wow, we're gonna intersect.
How does it intersect our lives personally, Rhett?
Rhett won't share.
Hey, man. Can I have some of that drink in your cup?
You've got your own.
I know, but I'm done with it. Therefore, can I have some of yours?
No.
What about your shirt?
That's mine.
You willing to share your shirt?
No, it's on my body. It covers me.
What are you willing to share?
Advice. The people on it were so crazy. Jesse and I felt so dirty watching it. We were like, these people are just so stupid. The way they talk to each other, it's like children.